The official program in just a moment. Usually around 5,000 people gather at the Field of Crosses each November 11th to remember the lives lost. But because of COVID-19 protocols, the public is not allowed this year. It is invite only. It has been approved by the province and the city, working with Alberta Health Services, and following their guidance, the cap on the number of people allowed to attend is being strictly enforced. Everyone is at least 2 meters apart and must wear a mask at all times. In tandem with this ceremony, there's also an Honor Guard march happening right now at West Wind's police headquarters. We have a live camera there as well. Let's take a listen. The Calgary Police Service Honor Guard is always a major part of the Remembrance Day Field of Crosses tradition. However, they're not able to take part at the field this year because of the coronavirus restrictions limiting the number of people allowed. Each November, more than 3,500 crosses are put up along Memorial Drive to pay tribute to the thousands of Southern Albertans who died defending our freedom. Each cross is inscribed with the name, rank, regiment, date of death, and age at death of a Southern Alberta soldier killed in action. There's also a special area with 120 unique crosses, a special memorial to the 120,000 heroes from across Canada who lost their lives fighting for our country. People are invited to stroll through the rows of crosses leading up to today. On the eve of Remembrance Day, the fallen are also honored with a night of lights. Last night, volunteers lit a candle in front of each cross. The candles left to burn until sunrise this morning. A beautiful sight to take in a very special way to pay tribute to the soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. The Honor Guard will soon be finishing off their march as we begin this year's Remembrance Day ceremony in honor of Canada's heroes. Global's own Jordan Witzel is a proud member of the board for the Field of Crosses, and this morning, as he does every year, he will lead us through the observance. Good morning, Jordan.
We would like to begin by inviting the pipes and drums and Honor Guard to march into place.
I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do.
As we await the arrival of the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, I would like to begin by saying good morning. My name is Jordan Witzel, and it is my honor to be the Master of Ceremony here today at our Remembrance Day ceremony. On Remembrance Day, Canadians pause to honor the men and women who have served and continue to serve Canada during times of war, conflict, and peace. 75 years ago, the Second World War ended in Europe with the unconditional surrender of Nazi German forces. Weary of the war, crowds gathered in cities large and small to spontaneously celebrate, full of jubilation and above all, relief. But peace, so longed for, came at a terrible cost. 2,075 days of war had left tens of millions human lives lost. Millions more displaced and a continent in ashes. The aftermath of war was the beginning of a new era filled with hope, optimism, and international cooperation. Today we gather to honor and never forget the sacrifice of so many. We gather on the land known as Mohkinstsis, where the Bow River meets the Elbow River. This is the traditional territory of the Niitsitapi, or Blackfoot Nations, who make up the people of Treaty 7 and Métis Region 3 in southern Alberta. We acknowledge the nations who make their home on this land. We also acknowledge Indigenous Canadians who gave their lives in service to our country and who are remembered in our field of crosses. The Sorrel Riders Drum Circle present the Blackfoot Flag Song as a welcome to all to this ceremony. This song was gifted to them by Frank Turning Robe Sr., who himself was a veteran of World War II and is represented by family members in the drum circle. The Cantare Choir, directed by Catherine Glaser-Climie, will sing our national anthem. I ask that all here present in the field this morning refrain from singing along. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to welcome the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, the Honorable Sama Lakhani, and His Honor, Dr. Zakir Lakhani. At this time, I would like to invite Catherine Glasey-Clymer to lead us in prayer.
Creator, Sovereign Lord, hold our troops and our veterans in your loving hands. Protect them as they protected and protect us. Comfort those who mourn, those who have died in the line of duty. Heal the wounds, both physical and mental, experienced by service members. Bless them and their families for their selfless acts of courage and sacrifice for our nation and for oppressed peoples around the world. Amen.
Amen. Ypres, Belgium, May 1915. The fighting was fierce, and Dr. John McCrae had spent 17 long days treating badly wounded soldiers. On May 2nd, McCrae's close friend was killed, and McCrae presided over a hastily organized funeral. The next day, he penned the immortal words of In Flanders Fields. Murray McCann, founder of the Field of Crosses, will recite In Flanders Fields. I also invite George Brookman, board member with the Field of Crosses, to join him with a response of the poem Honor, written by Kathleen Mills, wife of Colonel Dr. Darrell Mills, who spent 37 years in the service of our country, both in the Army and in the Special Operations Forces, including a total of 4 years on combat operations in both Afghanistan and Iraq.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row that mark our place. And in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye lose faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
On my honor, we will stand at the place where you rest and remember you. On my honor, we will pick up the torch of freedom and carry it for you. On my honor, you will not be a silent memory. We will speak of you often, so the world will know what you have done. On my honor, as you reach the gates of heaven, you will hear the voices of a grateful nation. Rise up, and we will honor you.
Those who have endured the horrors of war and conflict yearn for peace, as we hear in the words of the Cantare Children's Choir as they perform I Had a Paint Box.
Color going with delight.
I would like to now invite Corporal Mark Fuchko, a Canadian veteran of the war in Afghanistan, an outstanding citizen of Calgary, to lead us in the act of remembrance.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
On all the oceans, whitecaps flow. There are no crosses, row on row. But they who sleep beneath the seas, rest in peace, for our land is free. We will remember them.
We will remember them. They were young, as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them, we pledge amid the winds of time to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. We will remember them.
As we head toward our moment of silence in the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, we should all be reminded that 75 years after the end of the Second World War, we are here to remember the fallen, but to still celebrate peace. Adams and Atelli of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra will sound the last post. During the silence, we will remember the nearly 120,000 Canadians who fell serving this great country, and especially the 3,500 Southern Albertans who are remembered in this field of crosses. Piper Corporal Eric Knight will sound the lament Flowers of the Forest, which will be followed by Rouse. paying honor to our fallen, a flyover from the Search and Rescue Squadron of the Royal Canadian Air Force, the C-130 Hercules. In 1944 and 1945, Canadians worked to bring peace and victory in Europe through the liberation of Italy, France, Belgium, and Holland. It was one of our finest acts as a nation to make the world a better place for future generations. But their valor came at a heavy cost. The Cantare Children's Choir will sing After the War with a roll call of 36 Southern Albertans remembered here in the Field of Crosses, who fell in the spring of 1945 in the weeks leading up to victory in Europe. During the singing, wreaths will be laid in honor of those who gave the supreme sacrifice. Laying wreaths today will be Her Honor, the Honorable Salma Lakhani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. Representing the Government of Canada, Member of Parliament Len Weber. Alberta Legislature, Alberta Sheriff Branch Acting Deputy Chief Marcy Gonder, assisted by Branch Sergeant Major Troy James. Representing the Royal Canadian Navy, Sailor First Class Caitlin Downey. Representing the Canadian Armed Forces, Colonel Mike Vernon, 41 Canadian Brigade, and Chief Warrant Officer Scott Doyle, Brigade Sergeant Major. Representing the Royal Canadian Air Force, veteran Royal Air Force Constable Martin Slater. Representing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Chief Superintendent Trevor Daru. Representing the Calgary Police Service, Deputy Chief Chad Toffick and RSM Robert Patterson. Representing the Calgary Fire Department, Chief Steve Dongworth, accompanied by Kevin Knight. Representing Alberta Health Services, EMS, Stuart Brideau, Public Education Officer, and Mike Cochran, Guard Commander. Representing YPRI 3rd Unit, Canadian Armed Veterans, President Dave Hartman and Louise Walker. Representing the Field of Crosses, Gail Peak and Bart Peak. From the McCann Family Foundation, Carol and Murray McCann. From the Bittman family, Darren Walker. Representing the City of Calgary, Ron Buchan. And representing those members of the Canadian military who received the Memorial Cross, Diane Dallaire. Flight Lieutenant Everett Brock Allen, aged 32. Flight Sergeant John William Anderson, 22. Flight Lieutenant Richard Joseph Audette, Distinguished Flying Cross, 22. Flight Lieutenant Thomas Henry Cameron, Distinguished Flying Cross, 26. Flying Officer Harold Alexander Coots, aged 23. Flying Officer Rupert Edward Campbell Edwards, 36. Leading Aircraftman Wilford Bruce Farrow, aged 19. Bandsman Clarence Stanley Foss, 43. Warrant Officer Second Class Floyd Eugene George, 20. Private Alfred Otto Gorzitza, 22. Captain Thomas Farrell Greenhall, 27. Flight Sergeant Donald Leo Haberther, aged 20.
After comes a silence, after your wounds are healed, after those crosses been planted in all those fields, after the boat ride away across the sea, and after this train carries thee.
Flying Officer William Edward Hanna, age 25. Captain John Robert Harrison, 22. Gunner James Edward Harwood, 21. Private Otto Helmer, 26. Private Officer Lloyd George Hinch, age 22. Private James Earl Hoover, 20. Warrant Officer First Class Robert Gerald Hutton, age 23. Flying Officer Emmett Solomon Kachelli, 27. Sergeant John Henry Kay, 26. Flight Lieutenant John Gillespie Kirkpatrick, 24. Pilot Officer John Blair Lindstead, 19. Gunner Donald McDonald, age 21.
After this stride and the tobacco's all but gone, along with the postcards you've carried under your arm. After I remember all the words I couldn't say, and after this long night fades away, I will love you after the war. I will love you always, forevermore. I will love you after the war, forever, for always, and
Artificer Third Class Ronald Clyde Miller, age 24. Able Seaman William Tudor Mountain, 20. Pilot Officer Marius Bent Nielsen, age 19. Flying Officer George Joseph Sidney Overend, age 51. Flying Officer William Andrew Boyd Payne, 25. Pilot Officer Arthur Clifford Pettifor, 29. Corporal Charles Leonard Putris, 32. Lance Corporal Diamond Kwan, age 24. Flight Sergeant Leslie Elmer Ray, 26. Sapper Harlow Dakin Rankin, 36. Lance Corporal James Prosser Rowles, 31. Trooper Mario Robin, age 33.
after this blackbird lifts up off your chest, and after your soul takes its final rest, my love, I forgive you. You never meant to die, and I will place
As a conclusion to our service of remembrance, we invite the Sorrel Rider Drum Circle to share a Blackfoot honor song. This song also gifted by Frank Turningrobe Sr., who sang this to his regiment while fighting in Italy during World War II. The Cantare Choir will sing the Royal Anthem.
Santa
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal part of our program. As the Cantare Choir sings Canada, My Canada, you here in the field are asked to remain in your places until ushered out one by one from the field. Thank you for participating in the Field of Crosses Remembrance Day ceremony today, and for all of those who could not join us here because of the restrictions of 2020, thank you so much for tuning in to take part as we remember today.
Another poignant and very special Remembrance Day ceremony today. Thank you to Jordan and, of course, to all of those who took part in this very moving tribute under very difficult and different circumstances. The Field of Crosses project exists thanks to a dedicated group of volunteers. The group recognizes the bravery of our soldiers, along with those who fill peacekeeping roles around the world and are prepared to go to war should our country put out the call. For 10 years, Field of Crosses was funded by a private foundation. It's now been gifted to the public as a nonprofit registered charity to assure that 100 years from now, we still remember. Helping young people learn about how much gratitude we owe our veterans is always a big part of Remembrance Day. As Global's Gil Tucker reports, some committed Calgarians have now come up with a new way to make history come alive for school kids across the country.
And she was leading from the front and in the turret of her light armored vehicle.
Carrying on a tradition here at the Field of Crosses, saluting the sacrifice.
Captain Goddard was the first female killed in combat.
Now a new way to share the story of this courageous Calgarian.
Nicola, her team, and 200 Canadian soldiers advanced on a Taliban-held village in Panjwai near Kandahar.
The Field of Crosses teaming up with the Calgary-based nonprofit group Valor Canada to create these online tributes.
Under constant fire, Nicola bravely stood directing accurate artillery and airstrikes.
Aimed at connecting kids with our history.
We have documentary videos. We have virtual tours that kids can take a virtual trip through a battlefield or a museum. And teachers in the classroom can run lessons from them because they can't take kids on field trips. So since COVID, we've had almost 250,000 kids access our webpage across the country.
After high school, Nicola attended Canada's Royal Military College.
Making the stories personal, featuring Nicola Goddard's parents.
And a group of Taliban came out and basically ambushed them.
Valor Canada does some fantastic research, and when we get this information, we can push it out together to the youth, because when the youth remember, they can perpetuate it.
And that's important to these two men who have spent decades serving Canada as reserve soldiers.
I was in Egypt as part of a United Nations peacekeeping mission, and I got to go to Afghanistan on a very short mission supporting the troops there.
I've deployed to Afghanistan. I've done some local deployments like the floods in Calgary in 2013.
Nicola was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal for her actions and bravery.
We believe that it's important for kids, youth, as citizens, to understand why we send our soldiers into harm's way.
To have a school named after your daughter is pretty special.
We would like her to be remembered as being a good citizen of Canada, a defender of the values that we all hold.
Gil Tucker, Global News.
And as we take a look at the wreaths that have been presented today for this Remembrance Day ceremony, as the events of today start to wind down, it's been another very moving ceremony. This is a location, the Field of Crosses, where so many Calgarians come to every year to pause and thank those who served. But of course, things very different this year with COVID-19. But we are honored to be part of this production so that we can show you the service that's going on today. Thousands of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people have a long and proud tradition of military service to our country. Numerous awards of bravery were handed out to Indigenous service members during both World Wars. And to talk more about their involvement, Darcy Turning Robe joins us now. Darcy, thank you for joining us. I know you were part of the Remembrance Day ceremony today. What does it mean for you personally?
It was very touching. It means a lot of honors, and for being part of this as a First Nations member of Mohkinsis Siksika Hoki Nistawanog Namokumata Nistawanog Siksike Chitapi Siksikekuan. Just to be part of this history making for the Sorrel Rider Singers, which we were named after my grandfather, a World War II veteran. Chimok Katupi, Sorrel Rider was his Indian name. But just to be part of it and getting to sing all these beautiful songs that were gifted from my grandfather before he left this world, and get to sing it along with my ancestors along Mohkinsis, along the Bow River here. It means so much for many First Nations, and just to get the honors of behalf of his duty, and we were very, very proud. Very emotional. I just finished shedding some tears over there.
It was a very beautiful part of the ceremony today, the singing and the drum circle, so we certainly appreciate that. Indigenous members were often forced to overcome many challenges to actually serve in uniform. I think a lot of people don't know that. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, my grandfather vaguely, he sometimes talked about it, sometimes he didn't. He was very honored. Every year we would always go lay a wreath in our hometown in Siksika in Gleason when we had the service, and I would usually tag along. And when he'd talk about going there, and mind you, a lot of them didn't have to go, but he thought that he wanted to go and serve for freedom and what it stood for. And when he left, when he came back, he was promised many things. And not only that, just to being told that maybe take his status from him to come back and promise many different things. But he stood his ground, and he thought it was meaningful to keep his status no matter what. And so we had many different things like that he would talk about, and just like the whole residential stuff and all these other things that our people has resiliently overcame. These are many things that he didn't really talk too much about. Just real vaguely with our family and our friends, So.
Darcy, after coming home from war, Aboriginal veterans were not awarded the same benefits as their non-Aboriginal counterparts. We just have a few seconds left. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was a lot of things. Like I said, that when he came back from overseas, he was promised many things, and basically his status as being an Indian card, he was he was actually given these circumstances, like not to give it up so he can get any kind of piece of land and to live wherever he wanted in Canada. But he didn't. He stuck to it, and they were faced with a lot of things like that because I think what he told me was they wanted to just show that he wasn't Aboriginal, that he went overseas to fight. Some type of things like that, he would say.
So many important stories to share, and Darcy, we really appreciate your contribution to the Remembrance Day ceremony and joining us today.
Thank you very much. It was a tremendous gratitude from my people and for myself as a lead singer of the Sorrel Rider Singers, and this is the sweater I made in honor of him because this is my grandfather, his last pictures I took with him.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, the mission and the commitment of the Field of Crosses Memorial Organization is to assure that present and future generations always remember and never forget the thousands of men and women from southern Alberta and across Canada who gave their tomorrows for our today. Thank you for joining us this morning from the Field of Crosses and for taking the time to remember. We leave you with another song from the Cantare Children's Choir.